Good afternoon and welcome back to another ironic introduction to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about choosing a first rank 4 5-star champion. Now this is very different from who are champions worth bringing up to rank 4 because there are going to be champions that I mention and I'm just going to brush over them because I'll give you an in-depth reason. But I know that a lot of people might say, oh, what about this champion or what about this champion? For your first rank 4 champion, the thought process is a little bit different than rank 4 champions in general because there's going to be a lot of champions that make amazing rank 4 champions. But when you're pushing for that first one, you're looking for people with great damage output, low ramp time, easy to use, easy to play, or like super hard counters to nodes and frustrating interactions in the game because you're looking for someone to help push you past a certain hurdle of progression and really speed up and accelerate your ability to quest or the amount of items you need to use in Alliance Quest or Alliance War. And when you're looking at those tips and guidelines, the rank 4, who's worth bringing up to rank 4, the scale kind of tips because depending on how far you are in the game, different champions have different values, right? Like Aegon isn't great if you're not uncollected yet because the value of Aegon is in long fights. So when I talk about this roster, I will mention the ones that aren't as great, but they might still be great champions in general or even better than some of the ones I name as a first rank 4. But just do keep in mind that the first rank 4 suggestion here is all about that short-term goal. So that said, let me jump into science. So science, Captain America Infinity War, hands down one of the top 3 rank 4 5-stars you can have. Both short and long term. This guy is in a utility powerhouse if he's awakened. I think the if he's awakened part is incredibly important. Even unawakened, he does a lot of good work. Perfect block, high damage, absolutely monster of a champion. And bringing him up to rank 4 unawakened is still a great choice, I think, just because of the perfect block. And, he'll be awakened one day. And if you're bringing him up to rank 4, you're committing, to that. And I just hope that if he's unawakened and you're doing this, that you awaken him soon. Next up is Hulk. I think Hulk is definitely one of the more desperate levels of rank 4 science champions, but he makes this list because he does have the ability to like stun lock people into the corner, which is going to be very, very good. And his damage output is very high. It's just flat, raw damage, easy to play, spam special 1, spam special 2. Nothing really complicated there. And as a first rank 4, that's what you're looking for. Next up is Hulk Rag. I think this is one of the better options for a first rank 4, just because he does a lot of great output damage, has a heal block, which is really useful in a lot of situations. And if awakened, has the ability to regenerate some health kind of like randomly. And overall is just a solid rank 4 5-star. Luke Cage also has a good damage output, easy to ramp, potential for a special 1 lock, and you will get a lot of value out of a rank 4 Luke Cage as well. I think Mr. Fantastic has too long of a ramp time. I think Quink has too slow of a playstyle to justify a first rank 4, but I think that as a early on rank 4, she has a lot of potential because like Ghost and Quake both bypass a lot of mechanics in the game just with high skill play. Now Quake is worth a rank 4 investment and she's worth it early on. The thing about investing in a rank 4 Quake early on though is that it's going to be long, slow fights with high punishment if you make mistakes, and that is going to be very frustrating. And you're also going to find yourself maybe crutching a little bit on Quake because I find that a lot of people who get Quake or Ghost early on, they get really good at that playstyle, but they never really get good at like the parry playstyle or intercepting properly. And then they find themselves at higher level content and then they're suddenly having to learn. So I don't really recommend bringing Quake up to rank 4 as your first 5-star just because you want to learn the rest of the mechanics first and then come back and become a Quake specialist. Next up is Red Hulk. Red Hulk does a lot of really good raw damage output and definitely is a good rank 4. You'll get cruise through quest here. He's poison immune, absolutely great value, and he'll always be great for synergy teams. He's a okay enough defender just because he's tanky. Next up is Sentry. I just have him on this list because I think every time you get the chance to mention Sentry, you should. Because if you don't know, look up Sentry content on for MCOC. There's mind-blowing stuff with this guy. Like, the content for Sentry is great. I don't think you should bring him up as a rank 4 for your first 5-star, but you should definitely look him up because it's really cool. Next up is She-Hulk. She-Hulk's worth rank 4ing, but not early on. I think that the damage just isn't there. Spider-Gwen, definitely one of the better options for an early on rank 4 because she has the ability to enervate, and when you're enervating people, you're preventing them from gaining power when you're hitting into them. She has some awesome damage output, special 1 spam. She's easy to play, and overall, it's just a good time. I think Thing is one of the top champions here in Science to bring up to rank 4 early on because 1, he'll always be a good defender. 2, he has an awesome questing team that lets you essentially only run Thing and clear content. And 3, I mean, look at the guy. He's covered in rocks. How can you not play the guy covered in rocks? So next up is Void. Void is worth bringing up to rank 4. It's only if he's awakened, but I think that as your first rank 4, you should consider holding out for someone else just because your fights with Void are going to be kind of on the long end, and as a first rank 4, you want someone just a little bit quicker, but he definitely is worth mentioning because of his long-term value. For skill champions here, let's start with Aegon. I think that if your Aegon is awakened, a rank 4 Aegon is still worth. I think as your first rank 4, you're probably going to want to go elsewhere. Yes, doing Aegon, I think the major factor here of whether or not you want to look elsewhere or whether or not you want to do him as your first rank 4 is dependent on whether or not you're willing to play a lot more, because Aegon, you're going to have like really long ramp up times, but he's going to be able to clear crazy amounts of content for you. He's going to teach you to be an amazing player because you got to get really good to play Aegon, and you got to get really good the hard way. Like, there's no cheesy ghost strategies or Quake play styles that lets you bypass it. With Aegon, you're just playing Marvel Contest of Champions. So if you're willing to invest that time every day when you're playing and you're willing to get really, really good at the game, Aegon's a great first rank 4. Otherwise, look elsewhere and put him on the bench. He'll come back later. I think that Black Widow is a solid rank 4 option for early on just because of the ability accuracy down, only when she's awakened for the record, but otherwise you don't really want to be rank 4ing her. I don't even think she's available as a 5-star, to be honest, so I don't know why she's there. Blade is one of the best. He has so many good matchups and counters to champions in the game. Blade is hands down, and if you disagree, go look up Blade content because this guy, his danger sense, his awakened ability for the healing, absolute powerhouse, great rank 4, especially as a first rank 4. I think that Elsa Bloodstone makes this list, but I don't have her, or nor have I really read up on her, so I apologize for the lack of knowledge gap there, team, but I do believe that she has the damage output to be able to make this list. Gwenpool and Hawkeye both have pretty good damage, relatively simple to play, and are able to push through content fairly well. So those are solid options. Hawkeye more so than Gwenpool, unless Gwenpool is awakened, in which case Gwenpool has the ability to tank specials and is definitely worth in that regard. But once your roster starts to develop more, you're going to find yourself wishing that maybe you didn't rank for these guys. So it might be worth holding out. Just kind of depends on where your selection is. But you might consider waiting out for tier 4 class catalysts in another class and choosing your first rank 4 in another class, just because skill, kind of frustrating class to be choosing out of. Next up is Killmonger. Killmonger, again, the big thing here is damage output. He has okay damage, but not great damage. But really, the reason to choose Killmonger as one of your first rank 4s, 5-stars, is because of his ability to gain invulnerabilities on Special 2. Kind of he takes 3 free hits, and that's really good, especially for newer players. And so the younger your account is, the less damage your account is pushing, the better Killmonger is really. Massacre, raw damage. This guy's going to clear fights super, super quick. And you kind of got to learn him, but he has great reach, easy to play. I think easy to play, but there is some kind of learning curve to him, especially if he's unawakened. But this champion's great, and there is a MODOK boss in Act 5.4, which you're going to be glad you have a Massacre for, especially if you have him at rank 4. So probably middle tier as far as skill champions go. Sorry. losing my voice. Nick Fury here. Nick Fury is absolutely great. This guy does an insane amount of damage. You're going to have to learn to get really good at the game, and you don't need deep wounds. You just have to learn how to do like parry heavy, double medium, and then you can just attack into them freely, ending on a light hit combo, and they'll just die. They'll obliterate, especially only if they're bleedable. Just do be mindful that most of his damage comes from bleed, so once you lose that, you do lose a lot of his power source, but still a solid rank 4 because a good amount of the champions of the game can be bled. Night Thrasher here makes the list. He's worth bringing up to rank 4, but again, note that you're signing up for long ramp ups. Like, he has one of the slower ramp ups in the game, but still overall good damage. So as long as you're willing to ramp up a champion every fight, this is a good option. I think Ronin has great raw damage, not a lot of utility, but if you're only looking for raw damage, he will get you there. Again, probably along like the lower middle tier list for first rank 4s, but he still makes that list because I feel like he's great against robots. He'll provide you with some survivability, and overall has a decent enough damage output. I love this guy in order to help you push through content, especially early on. Cell Suit Spider-Man, I think him and Blade are the two hands down rank 4 that champion. You're going to get great utility, great damage, awesome value out of this champion as a rank 4. Taskmaster, if awakened and you have an IQ of 300, is also a great champion to rank up. But just do be mindful, he has kind of like a challenging skill set to learn, just in the raw amount of information and skills that goes into this champion, and like actively having to pay attention to the fight. But if you're willing to commit that time and that effort, this champion is a great rank 4, especially if awakened. The key part there is awakened, and then we will move on to Mutant. Mutant class, this class is stacked. If we're talking for rank 4s, this class is stacked. Archangel, first rank 4, great choice. I'm going to say don't do it though, because I feel like most of the fights that he can beat, he can do just fine as a rank 3. But if you love this champion, if you feel like he's clearing so much content for you, feel free. You won't regret it. But I think you've got better options. Colossus, similar playstyle to Archangel, except this guy isn't limited to the fact that the opponent can be bled and poisoned. He's mostly just limited to the fact that the opponent can be stunned. So he's not going to help you out against stun immune champions, but the good news is most of your fights, you won't have to worry about that. And the fights that you do, hopefully you have someone else who can handle it. Or you can just play Colossus kind of raw. Next up is Domino. I think Domino is a first rank 4. Totally worth it. Do it. Especially if you have Red Hulk, do it. If you don't have Red Hulk, maybe like waver a little bit, because really it's the Red Hulk synergy that gives you like a lot of damage on heavy with her. But even then, you should like maybe look into it, because she has overall good damage output, great abilities, and will always be a good defender if you decide to backburner her eventually. Next up, we have Emma Frost. This champion, great damage output, double immunities. And immunities is something I think that a lot of people need to take on early on, especially when you're talking about rank 4s. Because a lot of times when you grab immunities, and immunities is what's holding you back, like a biohazard path or a bleed path or poison path in Alliance Quest, you need those higher ranked bleed and poison immune champions to help push and save you on potions, so that you're not like walking into a bleed path and you're like, oh, I don't have any anti-bleed champions, I'm just totally effed this Alliance Quest. So you need one of those, and Emma Frost fits that bill, and she's an okay damage output for what you're looking for. Havoc makes the list of champions worth bringing up to rank 4, but as a first rank 4, trust me, you don't want to do this guy. Fights are too slow. You're not trying to take, a minute 20 every fight or so. Next up is Iceman. I think Iceman, like Emma Frost, okay damage output, above average, but the key factor here is double immunities. That's what makes him such a good rank 4, especially early on. And Iceman, like I said, like Emma Frost, that's really where you're getting your value. That's going to help you out a lot in Alliance Quest. Namor makes a list of champions worth bringing up to rank 4. Don't do this as your first rank 4, because one, he's probably not high sig, and you really want Namor to be high sig in order to have that value. And two, he really gets his value from longer fights, because a big part of Namor is pushing special 3s, multiple specials, and then killing opponents that way. And for your first rank 4, you really want someone who can end the fight before getting to a special 3, because if you're trying to build up to a special 3 to end the fight, then you're not really getting the most value out of that early rank up. Later on, when the fights are long anyways, and you know you're going to hit a special 3 every fight, it's a different story. But early on, his damage is just a little too slow for you. Trust me, be glad you have one and just rank him up later. Old Man Logan, I think that this is probably like one of the more lower middle rank 4 early on mutants, but he's still worth making that list. He does have that passive regen that's just like good enough. It has like some solid bleed ability, but I think if you're holding an Old Man Logan, maybe cut it off at rank 3 because that's really where you get the most of your value. If you have an Omega Red and he's awakened and you're running suicides, rank 4, no question, easy, hands down. Watch some Omega Red videos, watch my videos, because I love Omega Red. The guy's an absolute beast, but only if he's awakened, only if you're running suicides. Otherwise, this guy will just absolutely crush content for you. Next up is Sunspot and X23. Both of these champions are damage powerhouses, absolutely cruise through content. You do have to learn some playstyle with Sunspot, but both of these guys will clear, both of these champions, sorry, they're not both guys, will clear content incredibly quick for you. So that is mutants. Let me move on to tech here. Wow, I'm going to lose my voice by the end of this. It's sacrifices. So next up we have Darkhawk. Darkhawk, if awakened, is definitely worth a early on rank 4, just because you're going to get a lot of value out of this. I think Seaton's free-to-play account, he used Darkhawk for a lot of his content, and like it's easy to see why, but only if awakened, especially if you're willing to dump SIGs into him. That's where you're going to get the value. Doc Ock makes this list because if you learn how to play him early on, he does have a good amount of damage on like a parry heavy playstyle, but more importantly, you can kind of like passively deal with power locking champions, and passively power locking champions is going to help you out a lot, especially against the harder and more frustrating fights like the ones like Hyperion or Spite Paths. Doc Ock is really going to help you out in those scenarios. Ghost, hands down, if you have a Ghost and you're thinking about who should I bring up to rank 4 first, choose Ghost, period. That's the end of the conversation. If you disagree with me, fight me in the comments, but like only in the comments, because I'm a total pansy. I don't want to fight you in real life. Next up is Guillotine 2099. Don't do her as a first rank 4. Fights take way too long to ramp up, but you know, back burner her. You'll get there one day. Iron Man Infinity War, again, too slow of a ramp up unless you have Stealth Suit Spider-Man, in which case there's potential value here, or if you just love the champion. I think a lot of people will bring Iron Man Infinity War up to rank 4 first because they love Iron Man, and I'm with you there. So if you're doing him as a first rank 4 because you love Iron Man, this is the Iron Man to bring up to rank 4. Don't do these other ones. These other ones are garbage, except maybe Hulkbuster is getting a buff, so we'll see that in the future. Don't do Mysterio. You don't want a champion who is reliant on poison damage, because a lot of the champions in this game are poison immune, and you're just going to find yourself frustrated. But you can back burner him. He's good to bring up later. Nebula is an amazing rank 4. Doesn't have like that long of a ramp up, maybe like 20 to 30 seconds or so, especially early on, since you don't need to get to 20 stacks. You can just get to 10. Just be mindful that if you're going to bring Nebula up to rank 4, that you're going to have to get really good at her playstyle. Otherwise, you're going to be taking a lot of block damage, and playing her where you're taking a lot of block damage is not the right playstyle for Nebula. Sorry, I'm struggling here. Sentinel, great rank 4. I think that the reason I push Sentinel as a 5-star rank 4 like early on is if you have a rank 4 5-star Sentinel, go do Polar Opposites Variant 3. Go get those free rank 2 to 3 gems. Go get that free 5-star crystal at the end of the completion. It's worth it. You're going to cruise through that content with the Sentinel. You can get the completion. Go find guys. Plenty of people have done that content with only a Sentinel. So feel free to just jump in and clear accordingly. Stark Enhanced Spider-Man. I'm just going to say no. I personally think Stark Enhanced Spider-Man as a first rank 4, you're putting yourself in a bad position. I think that, 1, you have to learn to stack up poises every fight, and 2, I feel like he's very slowly finding himself phased out, but then again, I don't have a 5-star stealth site Stark Enhanced Spider-Man, so I feel like a lot of people are going to disagree with me. But as a first rank 4, I feel like you just have better options in tech. I think like as a second or third rank 4, when you're starting to be more serious about Alliance War, when you're starting to push higher content where like stacking the poises is really worth it, I think that's when he comes into play a lot better. But like, you know, like I said, like your third or fourth rank 4, he easily makes the mark. But as your first one, I think that, you know, you're not getting as much value out of him as you were like Ghost or even Sentinel, because Sentinel helps you clear content, etc. And I know that's weird when I have got like Darkhawk and Darkhawk on the list, but hey, we can discuss that one because I feel like that's going to be a controversial no for a lot of people. I think that if you have Warlock rank for him, damage's output is great, utility is great. Seaton has tons and tons of content on Warlock being absolutely amazing, and he is. He really will help you clear a lot of content early on, super easy to play, good damage output. That's what you're looking for in a rank 4, first rank 4 5-star. Next up is Cosmic. Cosmic, for your first rank 4 5-star, I think good options are Angela. You're going to get, she's like probably mid-tier, right? This is like your solid, middle of the line, first rank 4 5-stars. Easy damage, decent regen, slightly tanky, nothing flashy. And that's okay, because that's what makes her good. Captain Marvel movie. If you have Nick Fury, Captain Marvel movie, rank 4, hands down. Because you're going to have one ramp-up fight, but then you're going to be able to clear uncollected every single month with barely any potions, barely any revives. Even the bad fights with her, you just revive her and then cruise through the content again. Like, that's how, when I brought my Captain Marvel to rank 4, that's about when I stopped having to use so many revives on the uncollected event every month. So this champion just absolutely blasts through content. And this is what you're looking for, right? You want someone who clears content insanely fast. So if you have a Nick Fury and you have Captain Marvel, go ahead and blast through quest lines. You will be amazed. Corvus Glaive, hands down, one of the best champions to bring up to rank 4, especially as a first rank 4. Help you clear alliance quests, help you do alliance war, he'll blast through questing for you, and he's just going to make content so fast that when you switch off of Corvus Glaive, you're going to be like, wow, people are really slow. But do bear in mind that you're going to want to make sure you know how to build up his persistent charges on him, because that's where a lot of his damage is coming up. I think skip Cull Obsidian, he's too expensive to keep up personally, just in the form of potions. He does great damage output. I just don't think that that's really what you want out of a first rank 4. Unlike Cull Obsidian, whose damage is free, unlike Corvus Glaive, who does crits for free, Cull Obsidian requires that ramp up, and you're going to be needing to dump potions into him every quest line, essentially, in order to keep him healthy, and you really don't want someone who you have to dump potions into every quest. You want someone a little healthier than that. Skip Heimdall. Hyperion as a first rank 4 is great. This guy does an insane amount of damage, and he's poison immune. Always worth mentioning the immunities, although I haven't done it every time. Actually, I've barely done it at all. But Hyperion will clear a lot of content for you. He does damage very, very quickly, and absolutely cruises through content. One of the best cosmic champions in the game, hands down. Medusa, same reason as Hyperion, great damage output, ability to shut down robots, very easy to play, and will help you accelerate very quickly. Skip Phoenix, skip Proxima Midnight, both champions that are great, but not worth rank 4ing as a first 5-star. Venom the Duck. This is where it gets interesting. Venom, blast through content, great. That one's easy. Just play him, press special to kill the opponent. But Venom the Duck requires you to ramp up a lot, and as a first rank 4, again, that's not really something you would normally want. But the thing about Venom the Duck is he has that ability to ramp up so well and take on regenerations, take on power gains, that if you're willing to put in more time playing, he's going to save you a lot of resources. And so unlike other champions that require a ramp up, Venom the Duck's ramp up has the potential to provide you a lot of value in a ramp up. More value than just, oh, I was able to clear the fight. It's value in the fact of like, oh, if you revive him and you've got 2 regeneration stored, you start the fight with a huge regeneration. So like a 20% revive is not just a 20% revive. And so I do feel the need to touch on that. Venom Duck, absolute great champ, especially for questing, especially early on when resources are scarce. Black Widow Clairvoyant, she has the ability to access multiple immunities and a great ability to heal. Awesome damage output for Mystic, at least. Good power control, great anti-buff nullification playstyle, great first rank 4. If you have a Clairvoyant, I hate you. I'm like super jealous of you if you have a 5-star Clairvoyant, but feel free to rank 4 her. You won't regret it. Dr. Doom. Sorry guys, don't have enough information. I really don't. I think he's worth bringing up to rank 4, but I need to see more gameplay before I'm willing to throw that information out there. Dr. Voodoo, especially if he's awakened, he's worth it. If he's not awakened, it's kind of iffy because you're going to get a lot of good value out of him, but only in most of your matchups, maybe like 55 to 60%. But he does have good sustain. If he's awakened, it's a surefire great rank 4. The only thing you do got to worry is it kind of feels like he's being phased out of the game just in value, just in the direction the game's taking, especially with all the poison immune champions. Dr. Voodoo's damage is kind of hindered a little bit. But he does have nullification. He does have good sustain. So as a first rank 4, that's a potion saver. He'll still be good in Alliance Quest for the most part. So you can rest easy knowing he's one of the better early on rank 4s. Dormammu, you're roughing it up on as far as damage goes here with Dormammu, but Dormammu's going to help you with a lot of like power control fights, and that's definitely worth mentioning. Also, he's double immune, so yes, you're taking that hit on damage, raw damage output, but the double immunities is going to provide you a lot of benefit. And the whole thing about bringing up from rank 3 to rank 4 is the boost in stats, and that will kind of mitigate the damage loss you're taking there. Ghost Rider, hands down, one of the better options. Again, the frustrating part about Ghost Rider is the lack of damage, but you get so much heal from him, like so much heal from Ghost Rider, that he is one of your better rank 4 options, because essentially once you're done with him in quest, because you have better options, you just perma stick him in Alliance Quest, never take him out, always use him to taxi you from path to path, and he's bleed immune, so you don't have to worry about bleed. Next up, we have Magic Power Control Queen. If you have a 5-star Magic, rest easy. Bring her up to rank 4 and just cruise through content. Mephisto is probably like middle low tier because he has that ability to provide a lot of sustain, but the big thing is, again, damage. Like Mystic's biggest flaw is that they lack damage. Mephisto definitely feels that pain as much as anyone, but as an early on rank 4, I think that you get a lot of value out of that sustain. He has potential to last in Alliance Quest, and will always make a good defender. So as an early on rank 4, I'd say if you don't have any of the other champions I've mentioned, feel good about rank 4ing a Mephisto. He's definitely a good option, and you won't regret it. You just might think, man, I wish I had blank instead, like Clairvoyant, because we all wish we had Clairvoyant. Man-Thing, I don't think Man-Thing is worth bringing up to rank 4 because a lot of his damage is on the poison, but I do want to just like mention him since I have him, you know, a little bit of bias. Morningstar, don't think Morningstar is worth bringing up to rank 4 as an early on one, but I wanted to mention it because she is worth bringing up to rank 4 in general. It's just, again, this is one of those champs you really got to commit to ramping up, and that's not really what you want on a first rank 4. Sim Supreme, worth bringing up to rank 4, but again, too long of fights. Don't do it as your first. Wait for someone who's going to accelerate you through the game a lot faster. That said, guys, that is all of the classes. I apologize for how long this took, but hopefully this helps some people. If you disagree, I don't blame you. Let's just talk about it, because I think that if you're looking at your first rank 4 5-star, you should really think about speed. Like you really want high damage, anti-node abilities, and good longevity. All 3 of those, ticking those boxes is incredibly important, and not every champion, most importantly, ticks good damage output, low ramp, because a lot of the champions are god tier champions because they have awesome ramp up. Well, you know, first rank 4 5-stars aren't about awesome ramp up. First rank 4 5-stars are about clearing the uncollected event. And the thing is, in the uncollected event, it's a lot of fights that you don't want to be hitting the opponent 30 times. You just want to hit them 12 times and then have them be dead. So that said, I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope this helps some people, and if we disagree, let's talk about it, because, you know, there's a lot to this game, and maybe there's champions I missed, or things you think, you know, I have the wrong opinion on. Enlighten me, and I will talk to you all later.